Hello, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Couch GMs podcast. It's Monday, September 15th, 2025. I'm your host, George Kurt, joined by the one and only Cody Roadcap. And if you're watching us live, like all of you do, Mondays and Thursdays at 6:30 on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch, we're a couple minutes late. We're sorry. It's because Cody's boycotting a Monday night doubleheader that's occurring tonight and how many other weeks. So, hi, Cody.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, apologies for the delay. I've sat down 90 seconds ago and ready to jump into all the fun stuff we got planned for today.
I snuck so many things in the rundown that Cody didn't see coming. It's going to be a fun time.
As long as there's no like making me cheer for the Bears or something like that, like snuck in there will be good.
No, there's none of that, but the Bears did a pretty horrible job this week. I'm sure we'll mention that at some point here. Make sure you're following us at the Couch GMs, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok to get even more than you do from the show. You can DM us with any fantasy questions you have, or of course, drop them live in our chat Monday and Thursday at 6:30. Let's hop right in. What's happening? Seemed like the week of the injury to me. I don't know about you, Cody, but let's start off with the big one. Joe Burrow, after getting some second opinions, is expected to miss 3 months, and he is going to have to get turf toe surgery. Huge blow for fantasy owners and for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, man, taking fantasy aside from a second because that sucks, but it's called fantasy for a reason. It's not real life. Joe Burrow being one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, another brutal injury, just derailing the Bengals season. They're actually 2-0 though, and 3 months is a little optimistic, but if they could just stay afloat, which is going to be very hard in the AFC to do so, especially in the division where they have to play the Ravens. The Steelers, although they lost this past week, seem formidable. Like they have some tough matchups. It's not going to be easy, but if they could stay afloat, we could see something akin to last year where it was, not a slow start this time, but just him coming back and they're right on the brink, needing something to happen for a late season playoff push. And for football sakes, fantasy, just in general, fan of the game, I hope Joe Burrow can get healthy and get back this year at some point.
I hope so too. And the 3-month time period will put him right in the middle of December. So talk 3-4-ish weeks left in the regular season at that point. For fantasy owners, it would be tough to see if you want to put him back in your lineup at that point if you found another option. But like you said, that's kind of secondary at this point, just hoping that Joe Burrow can get back just for the sake of the NFL and entertainment, as well as his health and the fact that he hasn't had an offensive line with pass protection ratings higher than the top 4, I believe it is, in his entire career. And eventually, maybe the Cincinnati Bengals will address the offensive line fully instead of just trying to fill in some holes like they have been.
All right, so let's just say he makes it back week 15. I'm going to play a little game here, throwing you on the spot.
Okay.
Week 15 is December 14th. So that's roughly 3 months from now. So let's just say that's a game against Baltimore. So that would be a big game. Let's go through the schedule real quick. I'm just going to ask you win or loss, and let's kind of see where their record might be, what we know right now. So next week, they get the Vikings. We're going to talk about all the injuries for the Vikings in a second. Win or loss?
I'm going to actually give them a win.
I would agree with that. So they move to 3-0. Then they go to Denver on Monday night.
I'm going to go loss there.
I agree. I think the game could be close, but I think Denver's finally going to figure some stuff out.
Okay.
Then they're going to go. So that's 3-1. Detroit, loss. 3-2. Green Bay, loss. 3-3. Pittsburgh.
I'll give them a split despite this. So if it's the home game, I'll give them a win.
All right. So it is the home game. So you give them a win. 4-3. The Jets.
I'm gonna say I'll give them a win. That's a tough one.
That's 5-3. Chicago
should be a win.
6-3 bye week. Then at Pittsburgh. So we're splitting the loss. 6-4. The New England Patriots.
That's another wild card team right now. I gave them one toss up. I'll give them a loss in the other toss up.
So we're at 6-5. Then they're at Baltimore. That's a loss. And then at Buffalo without Joe Burrow, we're going to assume that's a loss. So he's going to come back to a 6-7 team with 4 games left and but it would be Baltimore, which would be the tough one, but then Miami, Arizona, Cleveland. So like if they can do what we just said and get him back for that game and then, finished with 10 wins, there's an outside shot they can make the playoffs.
Yeah, like you said though, outside shot. Like he'd basically have to be perfect coming back. And if you consider that first game back at home against Baltimore, no easy feat. It's going to be an uphill climb. Maybe they'll surprise us. They obviously have the offensive talent. The defense is going to have to step up now because there's no more safety blanket there for them. Yeah, I'm not confident. And it's really sad to say too, because this is the first time in, I think, Burrow's whole career where he's actually had a hot start. Maybe it hasn't been the prettiest, but 2 wins in September is unheard of in Cincinnati.
Yeah, let's transition though real quick before we move on because there's a lot to talk about. It was a news Monday to say the least. Fantasy implications for this. So for me, like I think Jamar Chase is still playable. You saw he still had the 14 catches. I think he's going to be a top target.
Yep.
Chase Brown, he's still a quality running back. He's still playable. The
Yep.
T. Higgins one, though, is where it starts to get iffy for me. Like, how much do I trust a wide receiver too with the backup quarterback in Cincinnati?
You see, he did fine this week from what I could tell. I have to pull up numbers, obviously, because you got me a little bit on the spot. But I think he's going to be more matchup based at this point. Like, would I play him against Baltimore? Maybe not, because I'm not expecting now the big shootout games like they had against Baltimore last year when you're not going to have Joe Burrow in there. But would you play him in some of those easier matchups like that could be a win? Yeah, I think that's, he's going to be fine there. He still had 8 targets, only 3 catches, but he got a touchdown, so he salvaged a decent week. Obviously, I don't think he's going to get as many, like maybe his reception percentage will be a little lower than it would be with Joe Burrow, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be definitely interesting to see how the T. Higgins situation plays out in general because of the quarterback. But the dude is a gunslinger. He likes to throw picks, but he also likes to push the ball down the field. So maybe he can still be fantasy relevant. But if you were relying on him as like a wide receiver 2 flex option, you might have to start looking at the waiver wires or packaging some trades.
Speaking of fantasy implications of that, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into some more later, but with who are some quarterbacks that I could look at while Joe Burrow is out? Browning's 3 interceptions probably knocks him out, but she has him in 2 leagues and needs that new quarterback now. Wonder who this is.
Yeah, that would be your wife. So obviously, whatever you say, she shouldn't listen to anyways. But yeah, quarterback's an interesting one. I think you got to definitely check some of the guys that went late or didn't go undrafted. Your Dak Prescott, your Matt Staffords, your Jordan Loves, those kind of guys. How does CJ Stroud do tonight? He could be, obviously, we're recording this beforehand, so that could potentially be a guy that you go out and target in waiver wires if he has a nice game. But yeah, I know I chased the Justin Field points and it didn't work out for me. My interesting one, though, is like, would you spot start Mac Jones after how well he looked in his game? I know it's the Saints, but because it's the 49ers offense, he plays very similar to Brock Purdy. Is that a guy you would chase at all?
I mean, I like the idea of going after Brock Purdy because he's somebody who kind of got dropped by a lot of people once the injury happened. A lot of people were thinking like he might not be something super special, but I can probably get him back. And then there was a bunch of quarterback injuries, so they might get cornered now, seeing that happened. He faces Arizona and then Jacksonville. Mac Jones does. I'm assuming that Brock Purdy misses 2 more weeks. Not bad matchups there. Maybe you try to go out there and target both of them, and you can play Mac Jones until Purdy comes back. Who I thought you were going to say when you started that was Daniel Jones, the other Jones, because he's somebody else who started off the season super hot. And he's somebody you might be able to spot start at least for a week or two. He's got Tennessee in week 3. Rams after that might be a little bit different, but it's a couple of guys to look at. And I think you're going to be spot starting until we see a real true breakout, but it doesn't hurt to go out there and be proactive on guys like, say, Brock Purdy is a good example.
Yeah. And with guys like Fields getting hurt with the concussion this week, with the JJ McCarthy, with Joe Burrow, there'll be a lot of people looking for quarterbacks, so to speak. One last thing to wrap up this topic, and then we can move on from the Bengals. Once Jake Browning came in to the game, it was 5 targets, only 1 reception for T. Higgins, but that 1 reception was the 42-yard touchdown.
Very fair there. So we'll have to see kind of how it breaks out. Maybe he ends up being somebody you can stream at quarterback as well if he gets going. And T. Higgins, I'm sure you and I will be talking about him a lot over the next few months if he is volatile or if he is not.
Yeah, another quarterback that could be banged up a little bit was Jaden Daniels. We saw him limping a little bit on the Thursday night game and their loss to the Green Bay Packers. And it turns out he did sprain his knee, and there is some concern that he might not play this week. It doesn't appear to be a long-term injury, but if you miss him this week, that'd be another guy that is going to be, eating up the potential waiver wire options at quarterback as you move forward. But Mariota's the backup. Is that a guy that you would just spot replace, or would you go in a different direction?
I'd probably start looking different directions. I think part of that also is going to be I want to see how Vegas plays tonight against the Chargers. Like if Herbert carves them up, maybe then it's like their defense isn't great. Mariota could be an option. I'll just jump on the bandwagon before Cody does on Thursday. Vegas is a West Coast team coming east at 1:00 next week, so that bodes well for a matchup as well. So he's a possibility off the waiver wire, but he's probably not my top option. And we're going to hit waivers later in the show. So there's a teaser, and I might have a couple options down there for you for the week.
All right, sticking with the Commanders, Austin Eckler unfortunately tore his Achilles on Thursday night as well. He is out for the season. Although the Commanders running backs didn't do much on Thursday, but in terms of fantasy, you would think it would mean more opportunities for Bill. Maybe a Jerry McNichols becomes that, pass catcher replacement for Austin Eckler. So that's just another injury for the Commanders team.
Yeah, I think now is the time that Bill will break out if he's ever going to. So I'm still not a fan of going out there and starting him next week. But this is the time where if anyone gave up hope and dropped him, or if anyone's not paying attention and drops him in this waiver cycle, he's a good guy to go out there and grab.
Especially since he put up 1.7 and half point PPR.
So if anyone's not paying attention, just saw his 1.7 and drops him in this waiver cycle, maybe he's a round 2 of waivers this week. A guy you grab on like Thursday or Friday whenever your second round goes through.
All righty. Next up, we kind of hinted at the JJ McCarthy injury, but the other guys that we have to talk about, as my page refreshed for some random reason, Aaron Jones, also a Minnesota Viking, most likely out this week with a hamstring injury. I know that hurt me, him with his limited snaps last night, and I doubt we'll be able to pull through from that one. And then we talked about Justin Fields and in concussion protocol. Any other injuries that you want to hit on?
No, I think those were the big 3. Just when it comes to fantasy fallout from JJ McCarthy, no worries about any of the other weapons in Minnesota. I mean, I know it's kind of been a struggle there regardless.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. It hasn't been pretty. Carson Wentz is going to get the start, not picking him up. I mean, I definitely have lower expectations of Justin Jefferson, but I'm still playing him. Mm-hmm. And then with Aaron Jones not out, like if for some reason Jordan Mason is sitting in your waiver wire, he'd be a guy to go after, because if he could, prove more value with a backup quarterback, no Aaron Jones, he could be a name that could be in play this week as well.
They'll probably just give all the carries to Ty Chandler because they hate us in fantasy, but yeah.
Exactly. One other one, to go back to that Thursday night game, it is worth mentioning Jaden Reed did break his collarbone as well, so he will be on IR for 6 to 8 weeks.
Is he going to get something done with the foot injury in the meantime?
I don't think he's going to get. I still don't think he's going to get surgery, but you would have to think just not playing on it and resting, it will kind of help him heal in that too. So, kind of like I'm not going to say a blessing in disguise, but it gives him a true chance to get healthy after this injury. And then also, take it for what it's worth, Christian Watson, who remember tore his ACL in January, told reporters in the locker room today that if the NFC Championship game was this week, he'd be out there playing with full confidence. So he's still not eligible to come out until week 6 after the Packers bye, just because he's still on PUP. But that is another guy that could be in that mix as we get closer and further down the NFL season.
Well, I might have to talk about a couple of those guys later with you then. But if that wraps up our injuries and our news, why don't we take a little bit of a reality check? All right. In this segment, Cody and I are going to ask questions based on week 2 of the season, and we're going to kind of just bait, where the status of the league is going. I want to start in fantasy and start in Pittsburgh because the man who was drafted as the lead back in Pittsburgh was Caleb Johnson. And after 2 weeks, I want to ask you, is Caleb Johnson droppable in most leagues?
Is he droppable? Yes. Am I just dropping him to drop him? No, but if you need a roster spot, yeah, like Caleb Johnson, he's the guy. I mean, I'm sure he's even more in the doghouse this week after the not fielding the kickoff that bounced into the end zone, because in the NFL, if it's, in college, if it hits the end zone, it's an automatic touchback. It's not the case in the NFL. So
If
that
it's in the landing zone first.
correct. If it hits in the landing zone first and then goes in, it is still a live ball, and that's how the Seattle Seahawks scored. So that's going to take some interesting things. But they gave Jalen Warren that contract extension right as we were about to kick off week 1. He's still been the guy that gets the workload. This offense is still a typical Steelers offense that it has its moments, but it still seems pretty inconsistent. So I don't think I'm like, if you want to hold on to him for like a breakout potential, but if you need the spot, like, I'm not going to lose sleep over dropping Caleb Johnson.
Exactly. I mean, I was thinking it was going to be kind of like a slow move back in, but no, the Steelers seem serious about like Kenny Gainwell's going to have a little bit of a role. Jalen Warren's been the guy, which I mean, I honestly thought at times Jalen Warren should have been the guy over the last few years too. He was more productive than Najee Harris in most cases. And Caleb Johnson's been basically just moved to special teams and returners. So, and return games. So, at least for the time being, I think he's droppable, but I'm kind of like you. Wouldn't drop him for nothing, but if you're a team that needs that quarterback or whatever it might be, I don't think there's a problem dropping him either.
Yeah. All right. Next question. This one you're going to have to, I'm sure you're going to love. Are the Chiefs in trouble?
I find it hard to believe that they are, just because, we've seen for so long that every time we think they're down, they come back. It feels like this team is the exact same team as last year, minus the luck, which is concerning because I feel like the reason they got so far last year is they won so many games and like, this team's quarterback fumbled a snap when they were in field goal range to go for the win, or this team doinked a 30-something yard field goal. It's like the luck seemed to be the reason that they were so good last year, but they were struggling the same exact ways they are this year. Their defense is hit or miss. Their offense can't push the ball down the field, and it definitely can't run the ball. Like, they have a lot of questions to answer. The biggest thing about it is they're going to get Rashee Rice back, and they're going to get Xavier Worthy back, and that could solve a lot of issues, at least on the offensive side of the ball, and who knows if that gets them going.
Yeah. And I think their defense is still pretty good. I mean, they held, obviously Jalen Hurts isn't the, drop back, sling it 40 times guy, but they held him to under 100 yards, although the Eagles got the win. So what stats really matter in that case too? But they're 0-2. They're going to, I don't understand what the schedule makers were doing, putting the Giants and Chiefs on Sunday Night Football this week. That one still mind boggles me. I'm going to bring that up again on Thursday when we go through the games and preview it. So I expect them to, get the streak out of the way. They're going to get a win. But then they get Baltimore and Detroit in 2 of the next 3 weeks. So like if you told me that going into week 6, like this team was 2-4, like I wouldn't be that surprised. But then they're going to get Rashee Rice back, and they're scheduled to end the season after their bye week, which is week 10, is the Broncos twice, the Colts, Cowboys, Texans, Chargers, Titans, and the Raiders. Like if this is the team that like goes on a 8-game win streak to end the season to make the playoffs and make a push, I mean, I feel like that's just typical Chiefs every way, shape, and form.
It's very true. Before we move on to our next question, even though it's related to the same game, do you want to answer a fantasy question?
Always.
All right. The Smitty said, I'm in a 2 QB PPR flex league. He lost Purdy as his second quarterback. He has Rattler and Ward for his backups. Mac Jones and Bill are on the waiver wire. Who would you go get?
Well, I would go get Bill for sure. I mean, two super flex. that is tough. And it seems like you're hurting for quarterbacks with Rattler and Ward. Mac Jones, I think you can go and get him. It's smart because then at least once the Brock Purdy injury is done, then you would get him back. So I think he should be your top guy, which might means you're going to miss out on Bill this week because of just how the waiver wire system works. But I think you got to get the quarterback, especially in a 2 QB PPR Superflex league.
So from what I'm reading here, I feel like you said Purdy was your QB2. So you already have a QB1. I think you can find enough points from Rattler and Ward to fill in the QB2. So I would kind of look longer term and put my first waiver on Bill, and then hopefully try to put 2 waiver claims in, see if you can get both Bill and Mac Jones. But so I'm kind of opposite of Cody because I feel like you can find enough in your flex because Rattler actually had a solid week. And if I'm not mistaken, Ward doesn't have a bad matchup next week. I'll have to take a look while Cody talks.
Well, I just also can't read because I took it as his 2 QBs were Rattler and Ward. And that's why I was going to get Mac Jones. But I'm now
if that's
reading
the case, yeah, I would go Mac Jones too, just to clarify that. So
but
sorry if we misunderstood you.
I'm as my second QB. Yeah, I think I would try to pick up Bill just for the long-term play and try to get Mac Jones as my second waiver option.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's just say next week the Titans are facing the Colts. As good as the Colts have been, they've still given up some points. And then we're looking at the Saints facing the Seahawks. Both decent matchups.
Yeah, and I mean, I honestly don't mind like for a spot start, like Marcus Mariota versus the Raiders next week.
Well, he actually might have to think about that too, because his QB1 is Daniels. And if you did miss it, Daniels might miss next week. So maybe your play is to go out there and get one of the 2 backup quarterbacks and make sure you're giving yourself the best option next week, whether it's Mariota or Mac Jones. Mac Jones is probably the better longer term option.
Yeah, I mean, even like I don't know, it's always tough, right? Because what quarterbacks are available in a super flex league, but just guys that have decent matchups next week. You have Sam Darnold, currently the 25th ranked quarterback, but he has the New Orleans Saints. You talked about Ward, he has the Colts. And then I mentioned Marcus Mariota, who has the Raiders if Daniels is out. So those are some other names to potentially pay attention to, depending on who's available in your league.
So hopefully we gave you a little bit to think about. Maybe you go get Bill anyway, and you can fill in with a decent fill in elsewhere on the waiver wire if you have to. The fact that you might have 2 guys you can do to fill in next week too might actually help you out with that decision as well. But hope we helped. Always here for any questions if you have any more. And do you want to move on then, Cody, to our next question?
Yes, I'm so excited for this question.
I bet you are. Is this week finally the tape that gets the tush push banned?
Look, I said this in the offseason. I know there's green and gold stuff all behind me, and I know the Packers were the scapegoat this past offseason, and I honestly thought it was getting banned after the Commanders game, and we're going to award them. But I said in the offseason, we don't need to ban the play, but let's just officiate the alignment. Mm-hmm. The alignment is like the helmets are freaking touching at this point. Like people are lined up off sides both ways. The Eagles are jumping off sides and are doing false starts because they're not going to call them. Like, just officiate it better. Or maybe there needs to be, and this will help with the Jawan Taylor, jumping back too early. Maybe there needs to be a uniformed alignment for offensive line that, each person has to be halfway back of the other one or whatever. And
behind the shoulder pad or something like that.
Pick your imaginary line, and that is the new alignment. And if you still want to run the tush push from there, so be it. But it's just not. I don't like it. The Eagles do it so well, and I don't want it to sound like I'm just like, oh, my team doesn't do it as well, person, because I'm really not. They do it well. They deserve to have it. But it's hard to say they do it so well when you have a game like the Chiefs where 3 of their biggest tush pushes, the offensive line false started. They were lined up off sides. The Chiefs were lined up off sides too. Like, you won't convince me on both sides. but like we need some clarity over it. And I do think we're going to have this whole conversation in the offseason again, and the vote's going to get closer. Maybe they're going to tweak the verbiage of the rule and it's actually going to get passed. We'll have to wait and see.
No, I mean, I'll say I'm the Eagles fan. You're going to think I'm biased and be like, no, the tush push needs to stay. While I don't think banning the tush push for the reason of safety is the problem, like there hasn't been any injuries that are noted on the play. That's not the reason to ban it. Competitive advantage isn't the reason, because it's not the fault of the Eagles that they're better at doing it than anybody else. If it was that easy and that much of a competitive advantage, everyone would do it. We've seen it in the NFL before. The reason is because, like you said, they don't know how to officiate. I feel like is what the reason is. Because, yeah, every single time I saw a tush push in that game, both teams had a penalty. Whether it was both teams lined up offside, the Eagles jumped, false start pretty much every single time. The Chiefs, I don't think the Chiefs were onside a single time they ran the tush push.
I'm pretty sure Chris Jones's helmet was smacked up against Jurgen's helmet.
Yeah, exactly.
At the goal line one, I'm like, guys, their helmets are touching.
Yeah,
like,
and there's like so many people saying like the center's even offside because his helmet's above the ball. Those I don't know if that's true, because the camera they like to use to argue that is the one that's overhead, kind of over the quarterback. It's not straight over the ball. But that's not the point. The Eagles are still either lining up offsides or false starting on pretty much every single one of these. And as the Eagles fan, I'm so tired of seeing this. Or like, I was worried in this game that the time they were finally going to call the penalty that they should have called every single time was going to be either on the 3rd down or the 4th down tush push at the end of the game that would have given the Chiefs the ball back. Yeah. And I don't want to deal with the is this or is this not a penalty. I'm okay with it just being gone at this point.
Yeah, I don't need another what is a catch, right? Like no. I don't need another situation of that. And maybe because it is the Chiefs this time, it'll make some more progress.
Yeah, I was totally convinced though it was going to be I was totally convinced it was going to happen after the Commanders game with Luvu jumping over the line 3 straight times, but maybe this is the one, and it especially got spotlight this week because of it being the game of the week and the Super Bowl rematch, and we'll see if anything comes from it, but it's not going to change this season. So we're going to have to sit here and live with it.
Side tangent.
Mm-hmm.
Just PSA for anyone in the NFL that may be listening. I know it was a Super Bowl rematch. I know that's supposed to be an exciting game, but can we have a little bit more, of an even slate? Why do we have 9 games at 1:00 Eastern time and only 3 at 4:30? That heck, Red Zone, they could have had commercials because everybody was at commercial breaks or at halftime at the same time. All the crying about commercials for Red Zone could have had plenty of them because there was so much. Well, let's recap what happened earlier because there wasn't enough games on. Please, we got to do better with the schedule.
There should be a minimum of 4 in the late window because there's so many games that are played on a Sunday. If you're going to tell me that they're going to put 3 in a late window like Thanksgiving week when there's less games because there's 2 being played on Thanksgiving and there's a Black Friday game, then maybe I'll give you the pass. But on a normal slate, no.
We got 2 Monday night games and we still had 9 1:00 games. There's no excuse. I don't
feel
need
like this is so 2002.
I don't need it to be
having so many 1:00 games and then just throwing 3 in the late window and that's it.
Yeah, especially like this week when there was 3 West Coast teams playing at 1:00. I know they were on the East Coast side, but
we've seen plenty of times where the Rams come to Washington or whatever it ends up being, and then they would still play at 4.
And I don't want to hear, well, the Emmys were happening that night. So they wanted, nope, this is the NFL. They dominate the ratings. Please fix the schedule.
Then too bad CBS won't have the doubleheader that week, and Fox had the doubleheader. Congratulations, you're good.
Yeah. So, sorry for the side tangent. It's probably the most heated I've gotten on this show for a long time, but it just really irked me on Sunday.
We'll put it up on TikTok. You guys all share it and like it, and we'll get it to the NFL.
All right.
Cool.
Next question. Next reality check.
Yeah.
I need you to speak. I lost.
Okay, gotcha. Are the Indianapolis Colts a playoff team?
Dude, I can't buy it yet. I really can't. I
You looked in pain. as you said that. I don't know why.
I can't buy it. And thank God for Kempy, friend of the show. We text all the time during Sundays, and he said, I wonder if something along the lines of, I wonder if this Colts team is going to be last year's Saints. You know, the team that started out to 3-0 and then looked horrific down the stretch. I know they were devastated by injuries. And because of that comment, I can't buy that they're a playoff team. They've looked good. They haven't even punted the ball in 2 weeks. The Daniel Jones-led Indianapolis Colts haven't punted the ball in 2 weeks.
I think they're the first team that's done that in some ridiculously long amount of time. I saw it this morning. I wish I would have saved the tweet now.
The only thing that is good about this is the Giants look so bad yet again.
Yep. Yes, they do. It kind of worked an opposite from last week. Last week, I enjoyed how they were saying Fox networks were, showing the Giants game. They lost, and then they were like, "Okay, here, let's go see Daniel Jones." Or I think the same thing happened with the Browns and Baker Mayfield too. It was like the Browns lose. Here's Baker Mayfield leading a game-winning drive.
Yeah,
I love when that happens.
I was on the record, I think, in our season prediction. So I said I think the Colts are going to have a top 3 pick.
Mm-hmm.
And they've already won 2 more games than I thought they were going to in September. So shout out to them. They deserve the credit. I'm not quite there on them being a playoff team, but you can't say with like a Joe Burrow getting hurt, that doesn't help their chances in AFC. Playing in the AFC South doesn't, they get the Titans next week. We don't know what the results of the Texans are going to be after this week game. Like, maybe they will make some noise. Maybe they're this year's Broncos team. I said maybe they're last year's Saints. Maybe they're this year's Broncos team, and the Broncos they just beat are going to take a little bit of regression, because they have not looked as clean and crisp, and their defense has given up more points than I anticipated those first couple weeks as well.
I'm going to say, if you have to make me pick either way, I'm going to say yes, they are a playoff team, because I do think they're closer to this year's Broncos. Just because every time I've counted the Colts out, they've been that team that is an 8-win team, a 7-win team. And it's like, they're better than we thought they were. Maybe they're not great. And I'm not saying they're going to win a playoff game, because I don't think that's true. But I would probably say they're a lot closer to 8 wins, maybe 9, losing the playoffs because, losing a playoff spot because of a tiebreaker, because you're dealing with maybe the Bengals in that situation now, because we talked about Burrow out. They're going to probably be closer to that 9-10 win team. The Broncos, who they just beat and have a tiebreaker on, it could be big. There's another team that they're going to be fighting for with that wild card spot. So, I think they're going to be in that mix. If you had maybe pick one way or the other, I would say yes, they're going to be a playoff team, just because I think they're going to be closer to it. But I kind of think they're going to be like 8 seed, 9, just miss.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I can't. I think I put in our group chat, again, not to bring it up multiple times, but I said I either severely underestimated the Colts or severely overestimated the Broncos defense. That game was wild. And let's be fair, we are, they were one penalty away from being 1-1.
It was a horrible penalty by the Broncos to move that 60-yard field goal to a 45.
Yeah, so
horrible.
The guy missed it. There was a penalty. So maybe if they would have lost that game, we'd be talking a little bit differently about this whole Colt situation.
It's a fair statement, but they hung in with who we think is a potential playoff team. So maybe they're at least better than that top 3 pick, like you said. Time will tell.
I mean, I think the question, we don't know the answer to the Knights game with the Chargers playing, but I think it is going to be interesting to see, maybe everyone's thinking the Broncos were going to be the team to compete with the Chiefs. Maybe it's the Chargers. The Chargers already beat them, and maybe the Broncos take a step back this year as well. You want something fun before we move on to the next thing?
Please.
While I was talking, which is probably why I was stuttering way too much, because I was trying to multitask, was I had ChatGPT run a projection on where they think the Colts are going to be. And they have them optimistically at 10-7, or a moderate 9-8. So, and its official guess was 9 or 8 or 10 or 7. So likely getting a wild card spot.
I don't know if 9 wins is enough for a wild card spot in the AFC, just because of all the teams that we named. But again, it puts them right there around where I thought they would be.
I think the more surprising thing about this projection is it says likely 9 or 8 or possibly 10 and 7 with the Colts being a wild card spot, but it's less likely they win the division unless Jacksonville or another division rival slips up majorly. ChatGPT might know something.
ChatGPT likes Trevor Lawrence and company, and apparently not the Texans, which we'll see them shortly. Actually, we're seeing them currently right now, I'm pretty sure.
Did they start that game early?
Thought it was a 7:00 start.
That's how much I'm boycotting these Monday night doubleheaders. That is correct. They scored a touchdown in the first 4 minutes.
Okay, well, ChatGPT did not watch the first 4 minutes of that game, but that is fine. Fantasy question before we move on?
Yeah. Nico Collins, 29-yard touchdown.
Nico Collins, nice. All right. Would you trade Cooper Kupp and Javonte Williams for Rashee Rice and Tony Pollard?
Ooh.
I don't think Kupp has a whole lot of value. Javonte Williams had a fantastic start.
Yeah, so really it's the upside of Rashee Rice when he comes back. Yeah. But you're going to miss him for 4 more weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I'm not taking that trade today.
Yeah. Maybe you can drag your feet for another week or two and still get him to take it. I don't know. Maybe that's the way. At the same time, though, when you're looking at it that way, Pollard's going to start losing work when Tajay Spears comes back. And Pollard's already kind of been volatile. So I don't know if Rice's upside enough to make up for if Javonte ends up keeping this up.
I mean, the devil's advocate of that is like Javonte feels like he's won that job. Like I'm not worried about Miles Sanders coming in and stealing it from him. I'm not worried
about a touchdown this week for some reason.
He did do that. I'm also not worried about, Jaden Blue at this point coming in. So I think I'm team keep Javonte. Maybe do like Kupp and someone else for Rashee Rice and drop the Pollard aspect. See if you could like counter argument or something. But that's kind of where I'm leaning at the moment.
Roster construction for this one. It's a 2 running back, 2 receiver, 3 flex league. That's a pretty deep starting lineup. Running backs are Henry Jacobs. Receivers Chase, Debo, Waddle, Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, DJ Moore, and Chris Godwin. There's a lot more good receivers there. So I'd probably keep the running back depth myself.
Yeah, I'd agree. You have a lot of good wide receivers as well.
Yeah, I could see starting Chase, Adams, Godwin when he's back, probably. Debo fits in there. Like I could find guys to start from that wide receiver room, but I'm worried if you make the move on Javonte when you have a bye week with Henry and Jacobs, you're going to be in trouble.
Agreed.
Okay. Back to our questions. Speaking of fantasy, speaking of Seattle and running backs, did Ken Walker get himself out of the doghouse this week?
Man, he was outsnapped heavily by Charbonnet in the second half, but then had a pretty solid, or in the first half, then had a pretty solid second half.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is just like it's not the fun answer, but I just feel like this is like a split and they're going to ride with the hot hand. Charbonnet was hotter in the first half. Walker was hotter in the second half.
Charbonnet was not hot at all in this game. Let's be honest. He had 10 yards on 15 carries.
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much put up a Derrick Henry stat line, which is also wild in another context that the Ravens put up 41 points and Henry had like 11 for 11 or something dumb. It wasn't quite that low, but it was something close.
Oh, yeah, no, it was something like that. The Ravens also have a receiver on their team who's a rookie who has 3 catches and 3 touchdowns. We didn't really talk about that one, but that's ridiculous too. But
Westbrook Akine light.
Seriously, pretty much. But I think this helped Ken Walker's case. The fact that he was so heavily outsnapped is very concerning, and I don't think we're ever going to see full workload Ken Walker. And part of me questions if that's a good thing, because maybe we get workload stat line similar to how Aaron Jones was in Green Bay. And Aaron Jones was a solid fantasy running back when he was in Green Bay, but he never played every snap, or at least rarely. So maybe this is a good thing for his long-term health, and we just hope that he stays as explosive as he was this week and gets some touchdowns to help the stat line.
Yep, I'm with you on that.
All right, I got one more here in the reality check. Have we already seen the game of the year?
I'm going to say no, because we are now week 2 of asking, have we already seen game of the year? So things are only going up. The new kickoff rule, putting the ball at the 35 on touchbacks. I know we're getting more kickoffs, but it's also helping increase the starting field position. Teams are scoring more points. I think we are closer and closer to another Monday night classic a la Rams Chiefs 55-58 shootout, which fantasy lovers will rejoice.
Or absolutely hate if you're the person nursing a lead, but football cinema sounds great to me. I hope you're right.
I mean, I know the total combined points were almost 55 points per game heading into Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football probably took that down a little bit because that was a little bit of a snooze fest. But points are up because you're basically a first down away from field goal position at this point with the new kickoff rules.
It's very true. It really made a huge difference. And it's interesting just watching kickoff returns. And you're like, man, that guy returned that ball to the 34. That was a good return. And you're like, technically, that was a positive for the kicking team. It takes some adjustment to get used to. I still remember when we were freaking out because they moved touchbacks to the 25.
Yeah, I'd honestly, I'd probably go back, to be honest with you, but
That's a bold statement. You want
might be
kickoffs out of the game already?
No, I don't want kickoffs out of the game. Like, I like the kickoff play. I liked it better when it was an actual kickoff and not whatever we're this do dynamic kickoff that's weird and fun. But once the Packers get a touchdown return, I'm going to say it's the greatest rule ever. So just wait for that.
Oh my God. Is Nixon still your returner?
No.
Okay. Well, I don't know if that's going to happen then.
It's Xavier Williams.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you who that is. But that Giants-Cowboys game was very entertaining this week, and the Giants had every shot to win. I'm surprised they didn't, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants were the ultimate Giants. I mean, but at least also, what are the Giants? I mean, we're going to go on another tangent here. We are already 40 minutes in, and we haven't even got to waivers yet.
It's all good.
What was the whole Jackson Dart coming in to do some read option stuff? Like 4 carries. We don't need that. Look, I know he's athletic, but he's not like a run first guy. This isn't like bringing in like a Mariota or
Taysom Hill.
A Taysom Hill. I mean, it's definitely not bringing in a Lamar Jackson or anything like that. Like, what are we doing? You're just causing more controversy for yourself. You know, especially when people are watching Red Zone and they see, oh, Jackson Dart's in the game, and then 2 plays later, it's a touchdown, and it's like, oh, that is a Jackson Dart touchdown. No, it's back to Russell Wilson. Yeah, let's
happened to me.
Let's not get too cute with this quarterback stuff.
I thought Jackson Dart threw a dart, but Russell Wilson was on fire.
Yeah, Russ cooked until it was overdone, and then he threw a pick.
I feel like I'm gonna have to cut that and use that for future Giants games because that was too good.
I'm here all night.
You're here for at least another 15 minutes, probably a couple extra because we're moving a little slow. But that was our reality check for the week. Make sure you tune in next week for even more. But let's go to the fantasy waiver wire. All right, we talked at the beginning with all those quarterback injuries. I wanted to offer a couple of guys you could stream at least, if not hold on to longer, coming off the wire this week. First one I got on here, Daniel Jones versus the Tennessee Titans. I think that's a pretty good matchup for a guy who has started off by not punting the ball for 2 weeks.
He's going to punt this week. I believe it. Yeah, I mean, I think that is fun for sure. it's still hard for me to buy in on the Daniel Jones thing. Like if I could get Jordan Love versus Cleveland, if I could get, a CJ Stroud versus Jacksonville, Sam Darnold versus the Saints. Like, I think I'd rather have those guys. Like, I think the Titans defense is still formidable. Like, I know the Rams, it was close until it wasn't near the fourth quarter, but being divisional, I think I might look some different options. But if you're more into this Daniel Jones than I am, feel free.
The other one I had on my list, maybe it's a little bit tougher sell because he had a good week 1 and a not so good week 2, is Michael Penix against the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, probably, sure.
Yeah, I mean, probably sure. Cool.
Kyle Pitts season, though. Kyle Pitts, baby.
Pitts season. He's going to get a touchdown one of these times, and he's going to have a really good-looking stat line because he's had decent-looking stat lines without touchdowns so far.
Yeah, I think I like everyone I just mentioned more than Michael Penix, but maybe they're not available. Maybe if you're playing in a super flex league or you're playing in a league where people like to take backup quarterbacks, those
or
guys
a league where everyone's going to be rushing the waiver wire for quarterbacks because everyone got hurt.
Yeah, maybe a Michael Penix stream isn't a bad option.
All right, moving to running backs. I've only got one. I feel like it wasn't a great running back waiver wire week. I got Bashal Tutin, who scored a touchdown in his first week as a backup.
Yeah, I told you last week you were like pretty heavy on the Travis Etienne is back, and Etienne still saw majority of the workload, but I thought the Bigsby trade signaled that they really like Tutin a lot, and he's going to get more and more work. So I'd go out and pick him up as well.
If he is available, I was surprised to see he was only about 20% owned in NFL.com leagues. So that's another guy that you and I could be like, how? Because he was drafted in most leagues. A lot of people probably dropped him.
Yeah, I think that is definitely one to pay attention to as well. Like I mentioned, and I still don't think we're at the point where, we're spending a lot of fab dollar. We're still at the, 5, 10, maybe 15 if you're really sold on a guy. And we're talking, normally we pick the less than 50%, but that doesn't mean these other guys aren't available in your league. Like we saw with the one guy earlier, like Bill was still available. Like he would jump to the top of this list.
Yep.
Chris Rodriguez Jr. has been a healthy scratch all season long. What does his workload look like now for Washington? Maybe if Bill's not available, you pick him up for free a week early, and it turns out, now that Eckler's not here, he's the pass catcher, and that's why he was a healthy scratch, and he becomes like the guy in Washington you want to. It might also be hard to tell if Mariota plays. Like I get that as well. So running backs, there is not that many great options out there.
Yes, but wide receivers, I think we have a couple. And the guy who I'm most sold on currently on the waiver wire is Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin from the Denver Broncos, who seems to have taken over the wide receiver 2 spot in Denver and actually outperformed Cortland Sutton this week.
Yeah, if you want to, Troy, I think there's a lot of good or solid options. Again, I still don't think there's a ton of, waiver wire people. You mentioned Troy Franklin as one. Another name I would throw out there is Alec Ayumanor, however you want to pronounce it. Calvin Ridley has not had the breakout we had. Ayumanor is, he caught a touchdown. He had a nice catch this past week. Him and Ward seem to be building a connection. He's a guy that, maybe I feel better starting Franklin this week, but I think I might feel better about Ayumanor long term.
He was somebody who I debated putting on my list too, so I like you threw that name out there. A guy who you might, if you need a guy this week, Hunter Renfrow. He was very involved. The Panthers have a history of early season leaning on some of these older veteran wide receivers, and then it kind of starts working some guys in. So Renfrow is a good early season option, I think, maybe shorter term.
Yeah, and one other name, Hunter Renfrow, he did have the 2 touchdowns this week. which is why he's probably going to be over, he's going to be looked at a lot. But another name I'll give you for Carolina to just pay attention to, Jalen Coker. He's currently on IR, short-term IR with I believe it was a hamstring, something that he'll be back from. He was a big reason why they were comfortable letting Adam Thielen go. Then he ended up, tweaking that before week 1. If you have an IR spot, and this guy's still available, you could pick him up and then just put him in your IR spot a little bit early. If you don't, it's 2 weeks out. You could, maybe pick him up next week or a week later to get ahead of the curve, because he had a pretty solid rookie year last year. Xavier Legette is having a not so great start to the season. That's why Hunter Renfrow is doing so well. So Jalen Coker is a name to also pay attention to.
Agreed. Good name for a long-term outlook. And then I've got a question for you. So with the Jaden Reed injury and the fact that Marcus Golden has been pretty much invisible, I have on here Romeo Doubs or other Packers wide receiver ?
So to show how invisible he has been to a non-Packers fan, you called him Marcus. His name's Matthew. So,
yes, I'm going to do that until he actually does something, apparently, because I did that last week too.
So I will say he was 2 plays away from a potential 30-point fantasy game. He almost had a 96-yard touchdown that was just one step overthrown, and then he was a 48-yard touchdown that the ball was too low and it got tipped at the last second. So if they would have connected on both of those, you're looking at, a 28-point fantasy performance. So he would have been the guy that we're talking about. I'm not saying he's going to break out. He is the big play guy. Romeo Doubs seems to be the safety blanket. But I'm going to say it again. The guy to own in Green Bay is Tucker Kraft.
Amen.
And he proved that again last week. I think that's only going to continue. And just like I mentioned Jalen Coker, I would pay attention to Christian Watson. And I know I'm a huge Christian Watson fan. Some people say why he hasn't done much. I think he is an extremely talented player, and people just remember his first drop and not what he has done since then. So again, another guy that if you have an IR spot and he's sitting out there, I'd, maybe pick him up and try to add him. But if you need a guy this week, Tucker Kraft will be my top Packers wide receiver, then probably Romeo Doubs, then Matthew Golden, then Dontavian Wicks is how I'd break it down.
And if Tucker Kraft is still available anywhere, he needs to be owned absolutely everywhere. But I know he is very highly owned, so probably not.
I think in the World Cup, which I'm about to go 0-2 in, which I'm annoyed, but it is what it is. I'm debating now playing Tucker Kraft and Trey McBride because I've now sat Tucker twice for Trey McBride, and I'm like, hey, we got the extra flex spot. I might need to throw Tucker Kraft in there and just live with that.
McBride's been fine, but Kraft has been must start at this point.
Yeah. So not always the homer.
I know you love talking about tight ends. I have a couple on here just to have put some eyes on. I kept Juwan Johnson off of my waiver wire last week because I'm like, I've seen this too many times. He has that week. Everyone goes out and adds Juwan Johnson, and he does nothing. He then followed up his 9 target performance with an 11 target performance and had another great game. And is he actually legit this time?
I mean, I don't. This is like the Daniel Jones question. Like, I can't fully buy in.
That's how I feel.
It's still Spencer Rattler, and I know he's got to throw it to somebody, and he does have the 9 targets, and he has, the touchdown this week after the 8 catches last week for 76 yards. Like, yeah, I probably should stop overlooking it and go ahead and pick up Juwan Johnson, but I'm not mad. I'm not spending a ton of fab on it. Like, that's just kind of where I'm at with him. I'm like middle of the road. It's a tight end. Like, he's in that same category as like your Evan Ingram, your Jake Ferguson, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, like Harold Fanning Jr., David Njoku. Like, if you picked up Harold Fanning Jr. last week, I mean, he had a, just under 10-point, half-point PPR. This week, play Juwan Johnson this week. Looking like the same thing.
Yeah, I actually think I'm still on board of Harold Fanning Jr. long-term. more than Juwan Johnson, because I still have this feeling Juwan Johnson's going to go right back to how he always has been, which is very mediocre. But Fannin, like, from watching a Browns game more closely, even though they were down pretty bad and struggled on offense, it just looked like they're trying to find ways to get him the ball, and he's working out of the backfield. He's working in the slot. Like, he's on the field a lot. So even though he only had 5 targets and he barely outscored David Njoku, it kind of feels like he's going to be a little bit of a gadget type player for them.
And anyone that's listening, it is 7-7 now for the Texans Buccaneers game. Ryan Miller, that guy, got the touchdown.
I didn't know he still played for the Buccaneers.
I think you're thinking of Scotty Miller. This is a different guy. So, yeah. Shout out to Untamed 2-0 gang. Where are you all at? I'm in that in some leagues, but not most of them. So
that's how I am. Yep. One more tight end. Zach Ertz, again, had a great performance. He's going to have Marcus Mariota in there, who I think he can be a good safety blanket. So 1 week stream for Zach Ertz seems like a decent option as well.
I talked enough tight ends, so if you say so.
Figured you did. Why don't we hop into Monday night, because you've been talking about the game in progress, and we have one more to talk about as well.
It is now 7-10. Texans got a field goal.
I feel like this is going to be a game that either we're going to get off the air and go watch it and nothing's going to happen the rest of the game, or they're going to score on every single drive.
I just need Mike Evans to not have a big game.
Well, if Ryan Miller is going to catch touchdowns, I think you're looking okay.
But, yeah, I mean, Houston Texans, that game is already underway, so we don't need to spend too much time on that. I honestly forgot it was a 7 o'clock start, or we could have started with that game if you had any waiver wire questions. But because the NFL likes to do crazy things, we got a 10 o'clock game coming up for all you late night people on the East Coast, or you early bird people on the West Coast, or people that are going to catch the replay in Germany. It's Chargers, Raiders. Should be a fun one.
Yes, it should. Divisional game. Vegas, the underdogs by 3.5 at home. Over under at 46.5. I'm interested to see how some of these Chargers receivers are going to do that we've been hyping up over the last week or so. I think it's going to still be more Keenan Allen than, Quentin Johnston, but we're here to see if Quentin Johnston actually learned how to catch this season. But no, I think this is going to be a game that, I mean, I don't know what you guys are looking at in fantasy. If you need something in this late game, let us know in the comments. We'll throw it up on the screen. But to see where we were, like if we guessed right on the waiver wire last week, basically.
Yeah, and it sucks that we have to wait till 10 o'clock Monday, our time, to get the game off to see if it is the right play. But I think that's all I got. Yeah,
I mean, shout out to my World Cup team, who I hope Bucky Irving doesn't go off. I need Lad McConkey to score 5 more points than him to win in my league there. So
I'm looking like a solid 0-2 in the World Cup, and almost time to delete the NFL.com app and just live on Sleeper. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, we'll see how it changes next year when they combine with ESPN, but that is a conversation for another off season. We are wrapping up week 2 and we're just getting into it.
That's right, George. This season is flying by. I can't believe we're almost 2 already. Kicking off week 3 on Thursday with Bills, Dolphins, and we're going to break it all down. We're live at 6:30 and get you ready for the rest of the week, because we are live twice a week on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can follow us also on Twitter, which is also known as X, Instagram, and TikTok. George putting out a ton of reels. As always, join us in the comments. Join us live. I'm Cody Roadcap. That's George Kurth. We'll talk to you all on Thursday.